Hi there and welcome to the Gazette's Hockey Inside Out show. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette and I'm joined by my regular partners here, former Canadiens teammates and 1986 Stanley Cup champs, Chris Nilan and Rick Green. Knuckles, I think it's a little warmer where you are than where Rick and I are today, where it's minus 16 with a winter storm warning in effect for Montreal. How's the weather in Hawaii?
The weather is great. I'm wearing my sunscreen. I'm not going to get burnt this time. And it's beautiful.
Thanks for joining us again, Knuckles. Most of the Canadiens players are also somewhere warm this week with the Four Nations face-off break in the schedule. The Canadiens are 1-7-1 in their last 9 games after going on an impressive 13-3-1 run that had put them in playoff contention. Knuckles, what were the major factors in this team basically falling apart and falling out of contention?
Well, listen, I'm glad they're somewhere warm because they certainly cooled off from that 13-3 run. You know, I liken that run to their run in the playoffs when they went to the Stanley Cup final, and then, they just petered out at the end. And it seems, it seems like the same situation. You know, they're really good, consistent for a bit, and then just ran out of gas. I don't know if it's run out of gas as much as their defensive play. During that stretch, they were incredible defensively. They really had their power play going. They scored some big goals there. Line A was going. You know, everything was new. It was great. And now not so much. So, listen, I hate to use the word fragile, but they're a bit fragile as a team. You know, I don't think they're a gritty team overall when you think of grit and what it takes to win the Stanley Cup. And I've said that all year, basically.
You said they need more men, right?
Yeah, I've said that. And I just think, and not just men, you got to be able to play too, but certainly guys who are able to control the play in the offensive zone and hang on to the puck and get pucks to the net and get bodies to the net, all those things. And, it's great. Speed is great, but if you have no grit with it, you know what? Forget about it.
Well, Rick, the one thing they don't have that they did have in that playoff run is Carey Price. Goaltending's been sporadic. What do you see? What have you not liked that you've seen recently?
Well, I mean, one of the issues definitely is 37 goals against, in 9 games. Not getting the key saves, not playing with the same desperation that they were playing before. And for whatever reason, they forgot what gave them success. And it's not a good time for this kind of stuff to play out. And, I think back on that run where they're finding ways to win every game. The pucks were hitting their goaltender, like a lot of times they weren't even seeing them, but they were going in favorable spots. And they were getting that save or that break in those games and allowed them to, stay in it for the most part of the game. And then now everything just seems to be turning sour on them, and it's not happening in their favor. But look, they're 6 points out of a playoff spot. Yes, they have a big mountain to climb with the guys in front of them, but they have to come to understand they can't continue to play a high risk game. That they had that settled down pretty well as far as the defenseman not getting caught, not giving on-man rushes, trying to protect that slot area for key scoring chances, and then they completely gave that up, and the results speak for themselves. So they have to fine-tune their mindset. Okay, these are the areas, starting with defense first. And again, I'll touch on the fact that I really believe, and I still have concern with their defensive zone play. Yes, they had some success before, but I see, as things get down to the final stretch here, the teams that cycle the puck well and move around, to take Tampa for an example, they have a hard time containing. And, that is the key to success. You have to be able to battle one-on-one, and you have to be able to shut down the opposition in the defensive zone. And they're not able to do that. the result is they're doing more chasing and resulting in they're getting a lot of penalties.
Yeah, they played not bad against Tampa Bay. Marty St. Louis said after the game, he used one of Dominic Ducharme's old lines, we paid cash for our mistakes. I don't know if that's so good going back and use Dominic Ducharme's lines. But, that mistake Slavkovsky made, the giveaway there, Knuckles, ended up Marty took him off the first line. After the game, Marty was saying, excuse me, I wasn't going to be patient this game. Do you see him losing the patience and was taking Slavkovsky off that number one line assigned to the rest of the team also?
Yeah, listen, I think what can you do as a coach, right? He's probably talked to guys. He's probably repeated himself a whole lot of times about certain things with certain players. And after a while, if the player keeps continuing to make those mistakes, he's got to do something. So what do? You take him off the line. You limit his ice time. I think Marty's not one of those guys to snap. He's not going to Tortorella you, that's for sure, which is okay if that's his style. And, I just, I don't have a problem with that. Listen, after a while, you got to try and get through to guys a certain way. If it doesn't work, you got to use something else. And with players today, the message usually gets sent by limited ice time. It used to be they kept you out of the lineup or they sent your ass to the minors. Now it's they sit you on the bench for a couple of shifts.
Yeah. Did you have a coach, Rick, who used to snap that you remember?
Inside my breath. I mean, I always remember, the last thing I wanted as a player was having a coach behind me jumping up and down and screaming. And, basically I shut it off because it really didn't do anything for me other than, the first guy to realize that he's not doing the job is the player. So, even more so in today's game and today's youth, you got to handle them properly. But, that being said, the players know what's at stake here. They all have to be held accountable. There's no reason in the world why they can't find their way back to perform at their very best. And we mentioned about confidence. Knox mentioned a little bit about they're a little bit out of sorts. Yeah, maybe they're not as confident. They're not playing with that same swagger, if you will. And that's what happens when you start to lose games. So you're doing a little more watching than doing, but that can be turned around, and we've seen it before. And I try to be very positive in the fact that we've seen them perform before. They're going to meet everybody, and this is the best time of the year to be playing. You know what's at stake, and find a way to get your A game there, because there's nothing better than surprising a lot of teams and finding a way to possibly get into the playoffs.
Knuckles, they worked so hard to get back in the mix during that stretch, and then just to fall off like that, it seems like the compete levels dropped off a bit also, which is a big concern for me. Do you think guys are getting down, or how do you explain that?
Yeah, well, listen, they got on that good run. They felt great. Like I said, I'm watching games with a different outlook now. I expect them to win. No, I'm expecting them to lose again. And again, Rick said it, and I mean, 192 goals. They're third in the league. There's two teams worse. San Jose got 212 against. The Penguins got 196. You got to limit the number of goals scored against you, and that comes from really hard work, yes, but knowing how to play in your own end. And like Rick said, and we talked about the penalties with this team in their own end of the rink, right? A lot of times they get overmatched, they get on the weak side of a player, and they're chasing them. And that can happen when you play man on man. If you're not keeping that guy in front of you, and you end up looking at his numbers, you're grabbing him, you're hooking him, or the puck's in the net. So that's, to me, the biggest area with this team. Is it because they're tired? Is it because they're too small? Combination of both. But, yeah, they're not even close to that team we saw during that run. Everything was going good. You feel great coming to the rink. Now it must suck coming to the rink again.
Yeah, not much fun. I mean, also, Michel Therrien, one of his lines was, you have to score at least 3 goals to win. They're not scoring enough goals either. They're giving up too many goals. A really bad mix. But, Rick, I think one of the bright spots is Owen Beck has looked pretty good, especially the last couple of games coming up. And it looks like he could be the replacement for Jake Evans. The reports that the Canadiens and Jake Evans are far apart in contract talks. Are you comfortable with them trading Evans with Owen Beck coming in as his replacement?
I have no problem with that. I mean, Owen Beck has won at different levels all through his games being played, and now he's getting an opportunity. He seems like a really good kid that is able to deliver. He had good success in Laval, and he has a type of ingredients that the Canadiens can use to improve that position. And I like him. I hope he gets a chance to play and play a lot. As we look down the stretch here, I think it's really important to get a real reading on what their players are all about. And I definitely feel and sense that he's a big part of the future.
Yeah, Logan Mailloux also, Knuckles, has been getting a chance to play. What have you liked about him? And if they reach the point now, it's just let's start playing the kids. Like, let's start looking towards next season.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I just quick on Beck, and these guys, what do they do the rest of the season here? They play them, get a look at them. Do they bring up a couple other guys and maybe a jack eye? Oh, there's a jack eye, another jack eye.
Another jack eye.
That kid took, some of those grittier players and see what they have at this level. Maybe you have them, assessed a certain way in the American League. Are they ready to make the jump? Yes or no? If they're not, they're going to keep them there. But those are the type of players they're going to need down the road. Now, with that, along with Beck and Mailloux, there's a definite learning curve. So you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer with these players because they have to make that adjustment going from the American Hockey League to the NHL, and it's going to be a big adjustment and a big step. And when you have, back in our day, you bring up one guy, you can insulate him, you can take care of him. But when you got 4 or 5 guys, it's like, whoop. And then, there's going to be mistakes made, there's going to be pucks in the net, and there's going to be more losing when you do that. So, they got to get to a point here. Can we still make the playoffs? What are we gonna do with the trade deadline? All those things come into this, and they're gonna have to certainly make some decisions there. But playing some of these young guys that aren't necessarily ready and putting them into a situation like they're in here, not a winning situation. I think for the short term it can hurt them, but you don't. Again, you got to know what you have at this level, and the only way to do that is assess at this level, not so much the American League.
Yeah, and Beck looks like he's ready, especially playing center. He looks so much more comfortable playing center than he did when they had him on the wing. He's a natural centerman, but it's also a bit of a juggling act too, right, Rick? Because Laval's got the best record in the AHL with Pascal Vincent as their first-year coach, and I guess Kent Hughes has got to weigh how important is it for these young guys to experience winning in a playoff run in Laval compared with playing in Montreal. How do you balance that?
Well, I think every kid that ever plays a game wants to play in the NHL, and whatever they have to do, they'll do it. And you talk about some adjustments have to be made throughout their lineup, and I think one of the key adjustments would be, fairness to these kids that are getting called up and are given the opportunity. Don't give them 5 or 6 minutes a game to play. You're going to have to adjust back some of the other guys' ice time to give these guys the opportunity to show what they can show, so they get a real true reading on what the future possibly holds for them. So I just hope to see that some of these young kids are given a fair opportunity, as in getting some minutes and have a chance to grow and progress at the NHL level, because I believe that they have the tools, and fairness to the kid, they can't show their tools when they're playing 6 minutes or 7 minutes a game.
Yeah, that's got to be a tough adjustment, going from playing big minutes in Laval to playing limited minutes here in Montreal. But Knuckles, another trade deadline coming up March 7th. At this point, you figure that Armia, Savard, and Evans are all gone?
Well, you would think so. Again, I hate to see Jake Evans go. I love that kid, and he certainly when the way things started here for him with the concussion down in Laval, he got then the Scheifele thing, and the way this kid, bounced back and became such a key player and killing penalties and shorthanded goals. Like he played unbelievable. Good face-off man. I love that kid. Loves the organization. I don't know how much he loves it. He said he loves it. It's an honor playing here and all that. Mm-hmm. I know one thing. When I left here, I was never the same.
Yeah.
I was never the same. I wish I only played for one team my whole career. And I get it. The big money out there. You got a chance at free agency and set yourself up for the rest of your life. Financially, that's a decision he's certainly got to make, and he's going to hold his ground. He's going to see what it's like to play somewhere else. And sometimes, again, guys go somewhere else and they absolutely love it. And you say, what the hell? It's nothing like playing at the Bell Center. It's awesome when you're winning. When you're not, it's not so much fun. But, we'll see. As far as the other guys, I can't see him being here, although I like – what I think of him. I like him. Mm-hmm. He's one of them guys I think could help a team that's going to make a run. Both those guys, imagine, could really help a team that's going to make a run in the playoffs and could maybe help put a team over the edge, fill some gaps and some holes they have. So, Savard, who knows? We'll see what happens. But, that's the league today. It's a big business, and guys got to cash in when they can.
Yeah, you can see the game's getting fast for Savard, and he's not getting any younger. I can't see. I figure all three of these guys are gone. And with Jake Evans, I believe he loves playing here. But as you mentioned, Knuckles, like he's 28, he just got married last summer. This is going to be a life-changing contract for him, right? And some team out there is probably going to offer him like $4 million a year. And do you want to pay a fourth-line center $4 million a year? To me, I can understand why Kent Hughes would be ready to walk away from that. I mean, we're mentioning also, Rick, we were mentioning the goaltending earlier. Sam Monto looks like he's not going to play at the Four Nations. He's going to be the third goalie there. But coming back, how do you handle the goaltending situation coming back? Do you just make Montemore your number one, or do you go with Dobes? Do you call Caden Primo back up? How do you go about that?
Well, I think it's important to give Montembeault obviously the upper hand when it comes down to deciding who plays and who doesn't play. Give him the majority of the games. Dobish, I would still like to see him put together a streak of games so you get a real true reading on his consistency and his ability to get the job done. But let me just go back a minute about Jake Evans. As much as I like him, and he's doing the job this year. It's amazing how certain things, and it's a tough call for management when it comes down to deciding what they want to do for term and amounts, whether or not it's a flash in the pan, which is above average year on a 1 year basis. Do you judge a 1 year over the above average production versus his track record of being not exactly what it was this final year of his contract? So Ken Hughes, Jeff Gordon, they've got a lot of work ahead of them. The phones, I'm sure, are going to be ringing. There's going to be some guys that are not going to be here past the trading deadline, risking losing these guys for nothing. So David Savard, there's a guy that will fill a hole in the playoffs, a big body that gets in the way, and I think we're going to have a different look by the time that the trading deadline comes through.
Yeah, it was interesting. Both weekend games, the Vegas Golden Knights had two scouts there, and they're fifth in the overall NHL standings, but they're 21st in penalty killing. And you got to wonder if maybe they would make a deal wanting Evans and Armia, right? Because that basically fixes your PK problem pretty much right there, and you got a solid fourth line guys also. Knuckles, Jake Evans spoke, you mentioned earlier, about what it meant to him or what it means to him wearing the Canadian sweater. He started off speaking in the past tense, which makes it sound like he's on his way gone. What did it mean to you wearing the Canadian sweater?
Well, everything, It was a team that gave me my opportunity in NHL, as a favor to a coach of mine, Dickie Moore and Doug Harvey. Got that done with Sam Pollock, got me drafted. And I needed that chance. I got that chance. And then, playing here and just being around all the Hall of Fame guys, the greatness that was in that room. My first couple of years, that 4-on-the-road team was breaking up, and I was just coming into that, and just to see how they carried themselves, tradition, going from hating an organization to loving it, and then getting that opportunity and getting coaching that made a difference in me as a player. From Claude Rell to even Bob Berry, teaching me what it's like in the NHL to work hard and what you have to do day in and day out to improve and be successful. And then having guys like Claude Rell and Lemaire refining the finer points of my game. Yeah, I could go out and hit and I could fight and all that, but those guys worked with me to become a hockey player, a full-time NHL player. And that I became. And a lot credit goes to those guys, and certainly the two guys I play with, and Cabo and Bob Gainey, 2 Hall of Famers. So you could have put Stevie Wonder out with them, and he'd have done okay. But, the organization I always feel indebted to, because they gave me an opportunity when nobody else would. And, I certainly took full advantage of it and never wanted to play for another team. I was never the same when I left.
What did it mean to you, Rick, coming from Washington especially?
Yeah, obviously huge, from a team that was losing all the time to a team that was used to winning with the type of personnel and guys that you had in the dressing room were just a breath of fresh air, as an understatement. But, I always think back to Ryan, Walter, and myself when we first got traded, and it wasn't a question of when you're going to get in the playoffs. It was a question of when the Stanley Cup was coming back to Montreal. So quite a change for us from the standpoint was just a promotion and just a really special time that was the memories and souvenirs with all the guys just couldn't get much better. So very, very fortunate.
Well, that's it for this week's Hockey Inside Out show. We'll be taking a week off from the show next week with the Four Nations break, but we will be back with a new show the week afterwards. In the meantime, please make sure you like and subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. Go to montrealgazette.com/newsletters to sign up for the Hockey Inside Out newsletter. And of course, go to hockeyinsideout.com every day. There won't be Canadiens news, but there will be Four Nations news, unless, of course, the Canadiens make a trade or do something like that. Also, please leave your comments on the show in the comments section below. We always like to hear from you. And look for our bonus episodes that'll be coming out over the next couple of days. Knuckles, enjoy Hawaii.
Thank you.